computer. All right, we are recording, and this is the May 12th, 2021 meeting of the Southern Oregon Woodard Group, and we're really excited to have some representatives from, is it Melio or Melio? I've heard it both ways.
You know what? We say tomato, tomato, so whatever you prefer.
Great. So Melio, I'll go for Melio. Zoe and Kelly, thank you so much for being here. And we've got, you're going to go through the tools, and we're especially excited to hear about your accounts receivable tools. So yeah, go ahead and dive in. And as members ask questions in the background and such like that, we can unmute and chat and all those other great things.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having us. And I'm just going to go get started and share my screen here. Can you guys see this okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I will dive right in. You already mentioned the name. Often people ask us, where does this come from? So this is just a simple definition pulled from dictionary.com. But you really can just think of Melio as being the better solution for you and your clients. And I hope that you'll kind of see that as we go through here. So when we think about what is Melio, it's an easy to use B2B payments and receivables. And when I say easy to use, you can think Zelle, Venmo, PayPal, all of those. Our co-founders actually were at PayPal when they acquired Venmo, and they were responsible for kind of building out those peer-to-peer payment teams. And it really got them thinking, why doesn't this beautiful product, and of course the price, kind of exist in the business arena? So those were kind of the guiding tenets of founding Melio. And when we kind of think about who Melio is for, we can think about this sliding scale here at the bottom, where historically over here on the left, there have been more of those free and easy-ish options. And I say ish just because at the end of the day, in my opinion, having to do anything with a paper check is not easy. And very time consuming, your time, of course, just not being free. And then even those bank websites, having to log in multiple places just to send payments out the door, obviously then reconcile them with your accounting software, very time consuming as well. And then over here on the right, there's more of those enterprise level AP softwares that are going to be really complex. Maybe 4 different people have to actually sign off on a bill before it can even be processed, including sometimes a VP, a managing director, lots of people. And kind of along with just being so complex, they're going to have a big price tag attached to them. And when our co-founders were kind of doing their market research prior to launching Melio, they found that most small business clients really are here in this middle ground where neither end of the spectrum is really cutting it for them. But there just haven't been great solutions, in the past. So that is really where Melio is going to come in and kind of be that great solution for the bulk of your clients. Of course, you might still have, some clients that, really do fit that more of that enterprise mold and might need to stay over here on the right. Great, keep them there. We, for full transparency, only like onboarding, clients that will be a good fit. But for the bulk of your, clients who are kind of across the board, either handwriting paper checks, cutting them in QBO or some other place, Melio will really consolidate that and kind of streamline your processes, saving you a lot of time and money. So in terms of how it works, there's going to be a lot of flexibility involved. So we do have a two-way sync with QuickBooks Online. Hopefully down the line, some more additional accounting software is coming there. And then, so kind of once you actually put the bill inside of Melio, whether from QuickBooks or directly inside of Melio, you'll actually have the ability to both choose how you want to pay on behalf of your client, but then also the vendor can choose how they want to get paid. We have vendor self-onboarding that lets them kind of onboard their preferred, method of delivery, or of course you can enter that as well. And so when I kind of, talk about flexibility here, you can do all sorts of things, including, paying with a credit card, but still having that vendor get a paper check, debit cards, ACH, however you like it. So a lot of flexibility very much built in. And kind of touching on the costs up front, I know it's kind of always in the back of people's minds as they're hearing about new great products. So just wanted to quickly touch on this. signing up and maintaining your account, kind of putting as many people inside of the client accounts as necessary, is all going to be free. And even our standard payments, also completely free. So sending an ACH, sending a paper check. If you want to pay with a credit card, which we kind of consider a premium option when using Melio, and we'll touch on this a little bit more in a bit here, there will be a 2.9% fee, but everything else, you can totally schedule and send payments, using our standard options, all for free end to end. So just good to kind of, cover up front. We can certainly, delve in deeper later on. So in terms of a very brief demo here, I'll actually just come inside to my own Melio account, quickly show you our accountant's dashboard, which is really great for seeing a high level view of all your clients, having them in a consolidated place. We're going to have our pay and get paid tabs over here that both kind of work through a folder system. So, things come to your inbox, you'll then actually set them up to be scheduled. And then past the schedule date, we'll move into paid. Something that's really great about this is you can kind of imagine, because of the folder system, how it would look on a mobile device. So you, the business owner, can always log in, meliopayments.com, no app download necessary to do anything inside of your account. AR, similarly, kind of in the reverse of that folder system, but same overall structure. Under contacts, you'll have your vendors and your customers, respectively. You can always come here, upload any any delivery methods or contact information as necessary. And then kind of within our settings, you'll have the settings that you would expect to see across any app, profile settings, company settings, and then things really specific to Melio, like the sync with QuickBooks, like being able to customize user roles, which we will also get into a little bit more, adding as many payment methods as you need. So credit cards, debit cards, bank accounts, and of course our support. So you can always come here and live chat with us. We do have accountants designated support. Everyone is trained in QBO. So it's really a great feature, to always check in if you need to regarding anything. And now I'll just pop back over here, and I'm actually just going to kind of take you through how to actually schedule a payment, get it out the door, and we'll look at this process kind of in two parallel ways. So the first way, I'll actually, as you can see, there's nothing here in my Melio account, and I'll actually just go over into my QBO and create a bill for $232.50. And because of our sync and integration with QBO, when I then come back over into my Melio portal, that same bill is sitting in my inbox, ready to go ahead and be paid, at which point I can schedule this bill payment, and it will take me through the payment workflow. So it'll ask if I want to pay. Great, that looks good. You can kind of play around with when you want the funds to actually come out of your client's bank account and when you want the vendor to get it, depending on if it's a check or an ACH. We can leave a memo, and then it'll take us to the review and confirm screen where you can edit any details as necessary. But I think most importantly here, just to note, because this is a standard payment, we're sending a payment as a paper check from a checking account, that transaction fee is going to be $0. So I'll go ahead and confirm and schedule the payment, at which point it'll move into my scheduled folder, and the bill payment will be created in QBO that can be matched to the bill accordingly. You're going to get email notifications kind of keeping you in the loop along the way. And of course, then past the payday, it will move into your paid folder. We actually have recently launched deposited and delivered labels on all of these payments. So you can come here, see what's outstanding, confirm that checks and ACHs have actually reached your vendor successfully. So that is super helpful. Similarly, email notifications keeping you in the loop. Awesome. So, we started in QBO, but really checked out the whole way using Melio. But now we'll just take a look at what happens if we kind of stay within QBO end to end. So this is the magic button, save and schedule payment. It has been rolled out across the board. If you're not seeing it for some reason across any of your client accounts, it probably means they had a prior connection with a different bill pay service. But we can always help you, get this button back. So no worries if you're not seeing it. So if you just, this time I'll just create a bill for $142.50. And then if I stay in QBO and just hit that save and schedule payment button, it'll actually take me straight into bill pay. At which point I can choose how I want to pay. When I want the payment to be deducted, great. We can leave a memo. And then same review and confirm. Again, note that even though we are in QBO fully, that transaction fee is still $0. It's a standard payment. And so then the bill has been marked as paid. And then over in my Melio portal, that same payment is reflecting as scheduled. And along the way, you'll get those same email notifications. So all of that to show that in both places, the checkout flow was exactly the same. All of these looked exactly the same all throughout. So kind of how we like to frame this, we'll just refer to it as purple Melio and green Melio. Rolls off the tongue a little bit nicer, easier to say. But whether you're working out of purple or green Melio, you are fully utilizing the same product and the money movement is happening in the same way. So you don't have to worry about, doing something in one place and not having it reflect in the other. Kind of by way of these being located in different places at this point in time, there will be slight different, capabilities that live in each one. So for instance, in purple Melio, we actually are able to customize user roles a little bit more than you can do on the QBO side, which will also come with an approval process. And so if you have a client who's really interested in approvals, you probably want to set them up there. In green Melio, we actually have batch payments where you can schedule up to 20 payments at a time, just send them out the door. So if you're doing higher volume for a client and they don't need approvals, maybe you set them up working out of green Melio. Kind of what's great about this is you can dance between the two as necessary and really put your clients where it makes sense for them, what makes sense for your workflow, and kind of play around with actually seeing what you like. So without having to worry about doing any double data entry or anything like that. So I'll kind of just pause here for anyone who is on this call. I know this is a little different than some other players on the market. So just want to see if we have any questions about the specific QBO relationship before we keep going on.
Yeah, actually.
Amazing.
So I was talking with somebody yesterday, actually, a member who couldn't be here today. And one of the questions or concerns that she had coming up, and this is maybe more of a troubleshooting thing,
Okay.
but it's been noticed that when working in purple Melio, sometimes there can be some, I guess, integration complications where additional payments come through, or if there is a, say, recurring bill that goes out like 6 months, all 6 months of those payments will be scheduled and in the books early, and it makes it so that the bank balance in the books is reflecting all 6 payments well before it
Yeah,
throws off the cash flow calculations in QuickBooks a bit. And
I
I
know
wanted to see if you had any ideas on how to troubleshoot that.
Yes. So there's kind of two ways at this point in time to deal with recurring payments. One is the workflow that you just described, but you perfectly described the con associated with that, which is that the bank records will not look up to date, which sometimes does throw people off. So kind of my preferred workflow for handling recurring payments is actually just to make the bill recurring in QBO, at which point it will only sync over from QBO into Purple Melio when it is ready to go ahead and be paid. You will then have to, of course, actually schedule the payment each month. But if you do care about the bank register not being completely accurate, that workflow can kind of solve for that. And at the same time, we are aware of the issue with creating recurring payments from purple to green. So product team is certainly working on that.
Awesome. And then the next question, purple versus green. I love how in Purple Melio you've got the different user roles and are able to set up approvals and things like that. And it makes it so that if you have an accounts payable staff member for a client, you can give them access to Melio and they don't need access to QuickBooks, which is great.
Yeah.
And set them up with approvals that way. One concern, though, that comes up is the user access and permissions in Green Melio. It makes it so that accounting professionals, accountant users of clients' QuickBooks now have the ability to pay bills within the client's QuickBooks, which sets up a conflict of interest where now the accountant has significantly increased liability because we have access to our client's funds.
Yes, I fully understand that end to end. It is something that we actually have voiced to QBO many times. So I think number one, right off the bat, if for anyone listening to this, if you have a QBO rep or someone that you work with there, I think sharing that, just because the more people who kind of consolidate and report back feedback is really helpful with kind of building new things out. We would love to see kind of our approval system in green one day as well. For now, I think kind of the best use case to kind of just avoid that is for clients where it is more necessary, where you don't have agreements on the side. Just work in purple and don't kind of utilize on the green side. But again, know that it is something that we are aware of and are on your side about.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I guess the idea of don't use it on the green side, if it's there on the purple side, it's still available on the green side. Whether or not you use it, it still gives us access to the client's funds. And that's the problem, is that just even having access, there's a lot more education that needs to be done with the clients about internal controls and making sure that they are overseeing the process and delegating from a place of knowledge and power, not abdicating to their accounting professionals, and
Definitely.
needing to
So
build that awareness.
yes, we are with you. For anyone who is interested and that is of a point of high interest, reach out to us on the side. There are a couple troubleshooting workaround things we can do to essentially remove the QBO access if it's super necessary. Again, we're not living in a perfect world here. We need to be. We're working on it, but we can assist if anyone is interested.
Awesome. That is really good to know. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Any questions from you, Sade?
Mine was just strictly about, well, I had two. One of them was the internal control, but Ingrid, of course, not surprised you noticed that instantly. My next question, can we circle back again to the fees? I guess I don't know if maybe I missed something or if it was unclear to me. The fees associated with Melio, you said it, most of them are free. Is there like how, I guess I'm confused as to why and how you guys are able to make it free. Is there a monthly subscription that I missed, or?
Okay, we'll actually circle back just in a little bit here.
Okay.
Because I have a slide about it again, but
Perfect.
definitely.
All right, well then let's move forward. I'll let you keep going.
Awesome. So paying by credit card is actually, we'll tie into the fees very nicely, but it's kind of one of our premium features within Melio. In addition to, I would say, the ease of, just utilizing the Melio kind of portal and our QBO integration, I would say kind of the third thing that makes Melio super unique is the ability to use a credit card. So just to quickly run through a few different use cases where we have seen this has really provided value for accountants and their clients. The first one is, of course, a little bit of a classic use case, but just that business owner who wants to accrue those points, whether it is for Delta Sky Miles or an Amex Platinum card. Now they can actually just run every business expense through their credit card in order to kind of rack up those points. The second is paying non-traditional items. So I think rent is a really good example of this, where historically the landlord only wants a paper check, won't kind of give you terms on any other payment methods. At the same time, though, you may not want to pay it that way. So now you can actually put rent on a credit card that will be run through Melio and still have, the landlord receive a paper check and even notify them to let them know that the payment is on the way, so they know that it is coming. So for kind of, rent is a good example because it's usually a pretty big monthly expense. Nice to be able to float that on a credit card. And then the last one is particularly relevant. We've seen credit cards kind of at play a lot during, the past year plus of COVID. It's hard to believe that it's already been that long. But for kind of, if you think back to last March or April, when a lot of businesses had to very quickly kind of change their business model overnight. So, you think restaurants had to really navigate to a takeout model, for instance. They needed to purchase a lot of new items and goods on hand, Heinz ketchup packets, these styrofoam containers, and all of that good stuff. Pretty big, expense that they were not expecting. But the vendor who they're purchasing those items from is, of course, not going to give them terms. So kind of using Melio as that intermediary kind of source to set your own terms with the vendor. Again, still have them get paid how they want to get paid, but you can kind of enjoy that extended flow depending on your card. So because this is so unique, there will be a 2.9% fee associated with making credit card payments. But what's great about this is, I always say you don't have to commit to always using a credit card. That probably would not signal something so great about the business and where they were if they always needed to use a credit card. But it's just good to have on hand if you ever need it and if it's ever of interest to the client. And of course, you can have all the other payment methods there as well, debit cards, bank accounts. And if you do use a credit card, it actually does expedite the payment. So payments will actually get there next day as opposed to 2 or 3 business days if it's, a standard ACH. So something good to know as well if that is ever of interest. In terms of our custom user roles and kind of, moving into the approval process, I'll just pop back over into my own account to kind of talk about these different roles. So in addition to the owner role, there's kind of 3 others: admins, accountants, and contributors. So admins are going to essentially have full equivalence to the business owner. Maybe it's a co-ownership situation or a CEO, COO. And so owners and admins can actually approve payments, while accountants and contributors have this button here that is fully customizable by amount. It can be checked, unchecked, however, is necessary for the client. That actually requires admin approval. So let's say we wanted it to be all payments scheduled, by this user, we would just make it $0. If maybe it's, 10K. So very specific on a client by client basis to what the needs are. And the primary difference between accountants and contributors is really that contributors will just be more of that junior bookkeeper kind of role, in that they can't touch the QuickBooks connections and they can't touch any payment methods. So they really are coming in here to kind of just save and schedule payments, get them out the door. Also kind of just for you to know what is on the horizon, we're looking to kind of create a just view only user role. That is feedback that we have gotten. So someone who would not be able to come in here and actually change anything, but just kind of has that visibility on everything that's happening. In terms of how the approval process actually works, it's going to follow the historical model of kind of handwriting paper checks, in that you, as the accountant or bookkeeper, would, Monday through Thursday or so, kind of be handwriting those paper checks. Then come Friday, sit down, have the business owner actually sign off on whatever is relevant. So similarly here, we're really just digitizing that process, in that you can actually manage everything that's happening in your inbox and actually setting those payments up to be scheduled and go out the door. But before there's any money movement between scheduled and paid, that's when those approvals will kick in and an owner or admin signature is necessary to kind of actually send the payment out the door. So I'll just show you an example of a payment that has gone through this approval workflow, or this one is pending actually. So, the business owner receives an email letting them know that they have items to review. They click the link from the email, takes them to the payment, which is where we are here. They can, of course, review all the details of the payment. If there's an invoice image uploaded in QBO, that will sync over as well, so they can see exactly what invoice at hand, the payment is paying. And then mini audit trail of who actually kind of scheduled it. Very simple approve and decline buttons. And then if they choose to decline, they actually can just add a reason here, kind of adding to that audit trail. And then the payment can be rescheduled as necessary, deleted, however you need to kind of handle it. So that is kind of our approval process. It was designed to be really simple. So we don't have, 4 different people who are going to sign off on the payment. Kind of whoever, while you can have multiple owners and admins in the account, whoever gets there first to approve or decline will actually, hold it up or send it out the door. And so we actually are recommending, just for anyone, everyone to know, that if you do need more layers of approval at this point in time, but are still interested in using Melio, you can actually use an app called Approval Max that is a QBO add-on, and you can do all sorts of custom, kind of really specific, approval thresholds there. And the bill will actually not even sync over from QBO into Melio until those have kind of been handled externally. And the pricing on Approval Max also appears to be great. So, kind of using the 2 tools in conjunction can kind of combat some of the, enterprise costs while still kind of accomplishing the same goal. So just putting that out there, again, for anyone interested, Approval Max, we have heard really good things. Any questions on approvals?
No questions for me.
Yeah, not for me.
Okay. So moving into our receivables, which is Melio.me, you actually can, of course, generate requests specifically from within your Melio portal here. But my preferred way of doing it, which will probably make sense for a lot of QBO users in light of some of the fees changing on the QBO side, we've heard a lot of talk there, is any client that you add to your account or has the ability to generate a unique URL associated with their Melio.me account. And what that does is it essentially, just looks like this. You can upload a logo, customize the URL according to how you want it to, be with the business name. And what's great about this is you can kind of tag this on to whatever invoicing system you're already using. For a lot of people, I know that is on the QBO side. And so you would just copy and paste this into, again, if it's QBO, maybe it's an emailing system, however, you like it. And then your customers would actually just come to this link to check out. So, if we're just using QBO as an example, you can essentially just turn off the, pay by credit card, bank account, whatever the options are, and just paste this into the little memo field and just say, pay me for free via Melio here, and still send out your invoice as usual. So then your customers come to this screen. All they have to do is enter the amount, the invoice number, and then maybe second best thing on top of it being free and easy is that they can actually check out as a guest. So of course they can sign up and pay if they are going to be a recurring kind of customer, if they want their details saved. But for people who just maybe it's a one-time use case, they can just check out as a guest. So a couple things to kind of come back to here. The payor, in this case the customer, is always the one who is assuming the fee. So if your customer wants to pay using a credit card, they will assume that 2.9% fee. Of course, they can use a bank account or a debit card, and it will be free on both sides. And then sometimes people see this link and get really excited and they're like, oh great, I can kind of send this out to anyone. Melio is business to business only at this time. That does, of course, include 1099 contractors, but true consumers or individuals will not be able to use this link. Any questions on receivables? Ingrid, I know you might have had some.
I am bursting with questions.
Okay.
Okay, so first question. So you said 1099 contractors can't use this? Is that?
No, they can.
They can. Okay, so here's a question. When paying with Melio, if somebody pays by credit card,
Yes.
Usually if something is paid by credit card or PayPal, that person would not need a 1099, but they do if they're paid by bank transfer. But in this case, the person receiving the money doesn't know whether their customer paid by bank or credit card. So how do they know what amount is going to be on, like, what does their 1099 need to be for? Does it include the credit card or not?
I am going to have to double check with you on this because this was actually something that came up and we may have changed a couple of things on. But I believe that it is not included exactly, to your point of it's the payor, it's not on the vendor side.
Okay. Next
I'll
question.
make a note to double confirm though.
Yeah. Next question. What about the credit card liability? And the reason why this is coming up, I was just meeting with a new client a couple days ago, and I specialize in the tours and activities industry.
Yeah.
And this new client runs multinational, like safari, multi-day excursions in, wonderful far off lands. And they get deposits from their customers, thousands of dollars way ahead of the trip, and they have their cancellation policy. And one of the things that they have done as a standard business practice is they do not accept credit cards because the customer can always dispute a credit card charge. And they've got their contracts with the customer and can go back and fight it with the credit card company. But sometimes there's a threat of losing. And, the credit card company, they're going to try to favor their customer. So if there's a dispute on a charge, it creates an issue. How do disputes work when paying through Melio?
So it would still be through Melio, not your card. And I would have to ask on that because that sounds like it's a prepayment, correct?
Yes, it's a deposit on upcoming.
So I believe we may not support credit cards for prepayments, specifically because of the reasons, that you're raising. So we may be with your client on that one. I can double check for you as well. But in general, you would come to once the payment goes through us, even if it's on a card, we are that, source of truth for you.
How does Melio know if it's a prepayment or not?
So usually based off an invoice, if you have an invoice, there will be a date of service or goods. If something looks like it is a prepayment, usually the system will ask you, have you received already the goods or services, at which point you would, if it was a credit card for instance, and I'm 99% sure, again I'll double check.
Yeah.
It may not let you, proceed with that specific transaction.
So if the invoice is dated for the current date, but the product or service on the invoice is deposit because it's going to the prepaid customer deposits liability account in QuickBooks, that could be an area where it might get missed, I guess.
Yeah, I'll double check with you. Again, we have people who are successfully, using prepayments. There's just a little bit of a different, we're generally a post goods, service, post delivery payment service. So yes, that is something to note specifically on the credit cards. You're right.
And last question, I think, is there a way to turn off the credit card capability but make it ACH only?
You're saying for the customers?
So like on this screen, enter your requested amount and pay using bank or credit card. Can we make the or credit card go away?
At this point in time, no.
Okay.
That's an interesting, like you're saying, just so that the customer doesn't even, because it kind of follows the Venmo model here, where, when someone pays you with Venmo, like you don't know how they're paying you, and frankly, you don't really care as long as the money is getting into your account.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, like what use case, just so I can understand better, would you not want that available?
Yeah. I guess the main thing would be if there was potentially an issue with the credit
With
card
the-
company disputing the
oh,
charge.
okay,
Yeah.
got it. So more for the prepayments.
Yep. Well,
Okay.
prepayments or just, anything where somebody doesn't want to take a credit card because of, concern over dispute, basically, like, you know, if there is a conversation that needs to be had about this transaction, then it needs to happen through the proper legal channels, not through your biased credit card company.
Yeah. There's
Cool. This is exciting. Any questions from you, Sade?
Nope.
awesome. Okay. We're a little over time here, but the last thing that I kind of wanted to run through, which is also in some capacity a new-ish feature that is very exciting, is kind of we have recently created an FAQ that really outlines how to actually pay your monthly fees, bookkeeping and accounting fees, and set up payments from your clients to your firm, all for free. So I can definitely share the FAQ link when I also share just the general, sign up link to actually add your firm and get started using Melio. But essentially super easy, you would add your clients to your dashboard as you kind of saw on mine, actually set up those recurring monthly payments. So either make the bill recurring in QBO or just actually make the payment set up the recurring payment from within Purple Melio, choose how your clients want to pay, choose how you want to pay. You are accountants and bookkeepers, so I'm assuming that would be an ACH and not a paper check. But then it will all kind of happen for free. So for people who I know there's systems out there that do this, and some are expensive, some are adding hidden fees. So just good to kind of know that you can actually do this all now in Melio. It's also a great way to kind of test it out because you'll make a few payments for each client and actually see how it works. And then coming back to your question, Sade, about kind of our costs. Again, all the pricing here is up to date. As you'll notice, kind of what I was referring to before is just that our standard payments of actually, sending a ACH from a bank account to a bank account, or sending a paper check from a bank account to a paper check, including debit cards, will all be for free. Those are our standard payments. Credit card payments were kind of our first premium payment option that was rolled out. So if you want to kind of, enjoy those points, enjoy the float, there will be that 2.9% fee associated with it. Down the line, you can expect to kind of see some more premium payment options here, things like international payments, for instance, things like fast payments, if you want to FedEx check overnight. Those are kind of currently in beta, being rolled out to users across the board. But essentially, in terms of business model, answering your question of how we make money, it's kind of the Venmo model where you can go in, send a payment for free. But we do have a lot of people who are utilizing credit cards, big revenue stream there, which kind of enables the rest of the product to be offered for free. Any questions that I can clarify on that?
No, that was very clear. Thank you.
Perfect. So that brings us kind of straight into a Q&A here. I know people have very specific situations for your firms and your clients. So always happy to connect offline, troubleshoot anything, help anyone get set up. Ingrid, I can also make sure you have all my up-to-date information and those links that I mentioned so that everyone is all set, but happy to answer any questions that might be outstanding.
Yeah, I actually do have one last question, and it's more just like specifics on the check. So I know that
Okay.
vendors will receive the information, the memo, the invoice, and whatnot, what was sent. But on the check specifically, will there be, if you're entering information in the memo line, will that be printed on the check?
Yes, it will.
And what is the character limit for the memo line? I ask because when sending tax payments, you have to list a lot of information and, tax ID, the tax year, there's just a lot. And I find that unless I write a paper check, I'm having a lot of issues around that because of the character limit on some of the accounts payable softwares.
Let me see if I can get you an answer right now just by looking. If not, I will certainly circle back with you on that. But there's a chance that I can tell. It does not tell me a character limit in the product, so I will check on that for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yay. Well, I think you covered all of my questions already.
Amazing. I know I have a few things I'll get back to you on, so I made note of those, but
Nice.
that's all the questions. This was great.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I think
no, very
at
informative.
this point, Sade and I are basically going to launch into a really fascinating discussion, kind of comparing and contrasting some of the tools you just went over with other apps. And I totally recognize that Zoe and Kelly have other things they probably need to get to. You are welcome to stay for that enlightening conversation if you like. Basically,
so
just kind of going tools that we've used in the past that maybe are now becoming obsolete because technology is constantly disrupting itself, and how we may have used some certain tools in the past and just changes in the app world. So
yeah. I'm curious, very high level, before we hop off and let you get back to the important stuff. But Ingrid, I know when we last chatted, you had mentioned kind of using some specific platforms to the tourism industry, and that those already existed. But beyond that, and Sade, feel free to jump in. Curious what other kind of products you guys have your eyes on, or kind of thinking about these days.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I was like, if you want to stay for this part of the conversation,
Yeah.
It sounds like you do, which is great. Sade, you're going to say something. Go for it.
Yeah. So, Ingrid and I have talked, many times about how my frustrations with Bill.com. So I currently just transitioned one of my larger clients out of Bill.com. The lack of customer support is hands down the number one reason as to why I switched.
And the price.
I am a busy person. I don't have time to sit to chat with somebody on the computer about troubleshooting an issue that could be completely fixed in a few minutes with a phone call. Wholeheartedly, that is the number one reason I was so fed up with it, because of the glitches and certain things that had to be fixed on their end that I had to wait, and I was at their leisure. And I was never less than a 30-minute chat conversation to try to describe what I needed to do, syncing it, resyncing it and whatnot. And it wasn't working when I would, I have the same issues with QuickBooks as well. Finding different avenues have been like the largest part of where I've spent my time in the last year, is trying to find the quickest, most efficient places for me to get my work done and move on, because troubleshooting definitely takes the most of my time and it's the most frustrating. So one of the newer products that I switched, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with Scaling New Heights. I discovered this product called Plate IQ. Basically, they read the invoices and it's automatically uploaded, but their customer support is hands down the reason why I switched. But they are very spendy. However, it's worth it because it eliminates having to have another physical person to teach how to do accounts payable. It's coded the bills for me. It does everything, but that's high level volume of stuff, line itemizing. But I do have some lower level clients that obviously wouldn't be able to afford that. So I'm looking for different avenues that's a lot more cost effective. Just today, actually, on one of the chat forums in Facebook, someone expressed their frustrations with QuickBooks fees. And a lot of, there's a wonderful Facebook group called QB Community Live, and that's basically our go-to. Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with them. That's our go-to. That's my go-to for any troubleshooting when it comes to QuickBooks and any, Yes, I know, love him. But that's where a lot of people have actually listed you guys. They're like, Melio, and I was like, oh, how funny, because they're so frustrated that QuickBooks out of nowhere is just popping up with all these, crazy fees that, people hadn't paid. I mean, some people are expressing like they've paid more in a month than they have in the years that they've had. QuickBooks used to promise that they were the cheapest option, and that's not true anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just in response to what you said, because we also did not cover it in the presentation so, overtly, but Kelly and I were actually just having this, discussion earlier today, but I will just make a plug for our support, in that when you, just for everyone to know, when you actually onboard, your firm and your clients, you not only have access to our accountants, designated support team, but you actually get a specific account manager. For instance, I've worked with Ingrid before, so that you always kind of have them as a specific point of contact. So we really kind of understand that is the name of the game, and where you need to be, and that, hours on live chat is not, ideal. So
yeah. So going back to what Sharday was saying about OCR technology and wanting those options that can scan the bill in and code it for us and those kinds of things. Bill.com was super cutting edge 6 years ago when I first found them at Scaling New Heights, and they kind of stopped innovating and have been overtaken since then. And now they're just the extremely overpriced, what are they even doing option. Like, I know so many people who are jumping ship from Bill.com. Just to last week, it's announced that Bill.com is buying Divvy. So trying to figure out, like, within the AP space, Divvy was coming up as a competitor, but their Bill.com side options were not the greatest. The main thing that Divvy was competing with was Receipt Bank, Expensify, PEX card, those kinds of solutions. And I'm curious because I see Melio is really kind of overtaking Bill.com space. Do you have OCR plans in the works, or do you kind of rely on people inputting their bills through QuickBooks OCR?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because kind of due to the integration with QBO, I don't think it was something that right off the bat needed, was a need to have, just because our recommended workflow is use whatever OCR you're using in conjunction with QBO. Then obviously things flow, QBO to Melio. That said, I think, OCR will only continue taking off. And so, as the product grows, could definitely imagine having, some specific integrations straight to Melio.
Cool. One more question on integrations. I started a little bit through a couple minutes. I had to hop on the phone. My daughter's school is calling. So I apologize if this was covered. Again, so sorry. But one thing that I like about one of the newer programs that I'm using, which again, it's a very costly program, and it can be very customizable, but we are paying a pretty penny to get really specific things done with this new program. But the one thing that I really love about one of the programs I'm using for AP is the fact that the integration, they take the image of the invoice and it attaches within the bill in QuickBooks. So I don't have to, so when I'm going through my month end process and I'm trying to see if a bill was coded incorrectly or even properly, or I'm just trying to be like, what the heck is this? I can, where you can upload an attachment that feeds into QuickBooks instantly. Is that an option that you have now, or is that coming with your guys' integrations?
Yes. So if you're using, if it gets into QuickBooks, theoretically through whatever OCR you're using, it flows from QBO into Melio. Right now, it does not flow the opposite way, just because the workflow, I think, mostly goes from QBO, into Melio. Then if anyone needs to review, that invoice image for an approval, or like you said, end of month, closing out the books, whatever it may be, it is then there attached, to the bill payment. But do I imagine that we will have it be in the reverse one day? Yes.
Is it possible for paid projects to get things like these sped up if, say, someone like myself wanted to pay to get that?
Like that
That
specific,
feature specifically, like your back end team, your
no,
engineering team?
but I will certainly convey, part of why it's so helpful to have these, conversations is really identifying what you guys want to see. So I can assure you we will convey that back.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these technology tools, it really comes down to saving time and saving money. And the OCR piece is really focused on time saving and at what point the time is worth more than the money.
And time and accuracy, I think that's a huge part. I mean, Ingrid, I think you can say the same. You and I are both very type A. I mean, we know it's hard to delegate because if we were to do it, we'd know it would be done right. However, that's not always efficient. Data entry is monotonous and tedious and usually can be passed downstream, but it has to be taught. The turnover rate is, it's huge. That kind of, position usually is paid lower. So statistically, there's going to be high turnover. So if you can eliminate something like that, for me personally, to make sure the accuracy and the efficiency is there is priceless. It's absolutely priceless because I don't have to worry about human error, my own error. I make errors all the time if I'm distracted, depending on what's going on. I don't have to worry about it. And so that's why I don't know, I love this OCR. I just discovered it because of the conference. But yeah, so hopefully that's in the works. But I know that, I mean, it's a lot of money and, it's not for everyone. And I don't think it will be for everyone for a while because of the cost of it. But I love that. I love your guys' platform and how different you are, especially with cost. I think cost goes a long way as well. And I think a lot of people, I mean, efficiency, I think that's the name of the game right now is efficiency and the amount that you're going to be paying.
Yeah. And the business model, like, having it be the basic tools are free and the premium tools cost money is a really good model. And I think that that's one of the places where Bill.com and even Intuit, the high subscription prices are going to start hurting some of the app companies because people are getting to the point where a lot of those softwares
they're astronomical.
Well, they're expensive.
$150 a month just for the software is, I mean, with what they're put, with the lack of communication you have with their customer service, it's a pretty hefty fee, and everybody knows that they're going to pay it right now. But I think they're in over their heads with these prices because people are going to start turning to other more affordable options.
The biggest apps in the industry are going to be disrupted by the newer, more agile apps that are able to do it better for less money. Plain and simple. So, and we need that disruption, especially, I mean, yeah, QuickBooks fees are they're too high at this point. If I encounter a brand new baby business owner who's just getting started, I tell them to start with Wave.
Well, yeah. And usually they don't come to you because they don't have the money to do it. And by the time that they come to us, we can't get them the discounts. We can't because they're not a brand new baby. They think that they can do it themselves. I mean, there's very few people that I
get. Because Danny DeVito told them they could.
Oh my gosh, I've seen that. And I've seen the one with Linda. I was like, oh my God, I know her.
So we talked about the different apps in the AP space. Let's touch really quick on the apps in the AR space. And Zoe and Kelly, if at any point you're like, yeah, we don't need to stick around for this anymore, you're welcome to go. Sharday and I can totally entertain ourselves talking about apps for quite a while. I see the AR tools that Melio is rolling out as being pretty game changing. Historically, I have been using Practice Ignition for years, and I love Practice Ignition. It's also expensive. As much as I love the ACH fees, it's, $1 per transaction, regardless of the amount of the transaction. That part's fantastic. It's also a $700 something per year subscription fee, which if we compare that to the merchant services of going through other softwares, like if I were having, to receive payments directly from within QuickBooks, if I'm paying 1% up to $10 per transaction using QuickBooks Merchant Services for ACH, it gets pretty high. And, you know, historically, the $700 subscription fee has made up for that, and it's been worth staying on Practice Ignition. But if I can eliminate the fees entirely, I'll look for a different contract software and, you know, switch my AR tools, because it's free is a lot better. And, you know, while I love the kind of easy workflow to e-sign a contract in Practice Ignition, there are other, you know, DocuSign type apps that take care of that aspect, that I then can just put it out there. And especially for recurring contracts, like you were saying, Zoe, being able to have my clients, you know, automatically draft their account, and then they get to choose whether it's on ACH or credit card, and I don't have to worry about it. Wonderful. Because currently I don't take credit cards because I don't want to pay the fees.
Same. Yeah, I don't either.
So yeah.
Or I connect to their bill pay system as an ACH, and it's free.
Okay. So yeah, I'm very excited about the AR tools, and excited about kind of getting the word out, because especially with Intuit raising their ACH rates, you know, to that 1% up to $10 per transaction. I remember when their ACH was just 50 cents, regardless of the amount. And that was great, but no longer. So
they're nickel and diming everything right now. And it's a little frustrating, especially, you know, when they're paying for accounts as well and having those awkward conversations, you know, they're backed into a corner.
Yeah.
They're getting frustrated, especially with what's going on in the world right now. You know, some people their funds are tight. So it's a little overwhelming for them.
Yeah. So Zoe and Kelly, do you have any other questions for me and Sharday about our workflows and the apps that we're using?
I'm trying to think. Sure. I mean, I feel like I kind of have a good handle, Ingrid, on your workflow just from our last conversation. But Sharday, would love to hear, like, are you specializing in an industry? Are you kind of working across the board on clients?
Yeah, I'm actually just recently made a decision to focus and niche down into real estate investors, oil changes, and car washes.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah. Very different industries, but very consistent. The real estate investing is definitely one area that I found that AR systems and OCR will not be able to be compatible with due to the tax laws of tangible property, depending on the certain years. It's very manual labor intensive as far as understanding the tax code. And so that's personally where the bigger money comes from, because things like what your guys' software does isn't going to be able to, or not just, I mean, what your software does, like, it'll work fine, but I have to enter in the codes because it depends on line item, you know, there is a lot that goes into it. And so, like, OCR isn't even an option. Anybody, you know, like, there's no reason why I would pay for something like that, because it wouldn't be able to properly code a transaction. There's a lot of different things that goes into each invoice and understanding where it's going to be coded. It changes every time.
Okay, cool. And so I take it you're doing tax for your clients as well. Like, has
this? No, I don't do tax at all. No, it's strictly coding. It's a CapEx policy, and it's just the ground. It's the first level of the bill. No tax.
Got it. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, we still need to make sure that everything is coded correctly and prepared for the tax accountants to be able to do their jobs effectively. So,
and real estate investing, the industry in general is, it follows the tax code. So I work closely with the CPA to create a CapEx policy, and it really depends on if the property is in their first year or if it's in their second year. And then there's thresholds to expensing something or capitalizing that. And usually it's a pretty straightforward $2,500 threshold. You would know if you were going to push it up or you're going to push it down. But in this case, depending on the year of the property, you would want to try to expense it as much as you possibly can in a second year. The system's not going to be able to identify it. It's it's just, there's too much that goes on. And so my point is that's why I'm specializing into it, because it's where the money is, to be honest. I had less work, more money.
I love that for you. No, that's really helpful. I didn't know that about all the like tax code prep and stuff. So super helpful to know.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. This has been really great. Very happy that we were able to make this happen. So
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And Sharday and I will kind of continue the conversation. We might stop the recording after this. But yeah, great. Thanks so much, Melio.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day, guys.
bye.
Bye. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. I figure I'll pause it. I figure we can always restart it again if there's anything that we want to share with the rest of the group. But at this point, we might just have, Woodard social catch-up time if we're done talking about apps.
Yeah, no, yeah, you can definitely stop the recording.
Okay. Good. Thanks for everybody who's watching this. See you soon.
Yeah. Okay.
I just unpaused the recording. So this was a gem that we had to share with everybody else. Plate IQ. A feature that I was not aware of. Statement reconciliation. Tell us about statement reconciliation.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about this product. I am very, very happy with it. The fact that you can upload a statement and it will go across to every single class and it will line item. It'll look through the whole system from the statement and tell you if there's any missing invoices that you haven't uploaded, and it will take those invoice numbers. And then you can set within the system the emails to the vendors that you want it to go to. It'll send them a notification that we don't have these invoices and that they have not been uploaded yet and entered, and it'll send it to them so that they can send it right back. And then it'll get entered. So you know if you've missed any invoice without having to check the statement yourself. It's incredible. And then in addition, it line itemizes and does price checking. So for restaurant businesses or people like in the auto industry who order a lot of parts and you work with a lot of different vendors, or you simply want to know if you're getting, if they upcharged you, it'll send you a report every single month letting you know. It'll line item check every single part number or like whatever food number that you've ordered, and it'll let you know if there's been an increase or a decrease. You can set it to like a 0.00. So you know if you're being upcharged from your contract prices. It's magical.
That is mind-blowing, because like I don't work with those industries anymore, but I have worked with restaurants, I have worked with auto industry and oil change shops. Like and what you're describing right now, that pain point is one of the main things I hated about working in those. And the fact that there is now a technology automation for statement reconciliation of those major vendors that have, you could have 100 invoices or more in a single month.
You can have thousands of different parts that you order depending, and you have contracts.
And for multiple locations and for, like all coded differently, and like that is mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing that there is an app now that does statement reconciliation.
It is. I can't say enough good things. And we also did test it by going into the price points, and we adjusted some of the prices to where it would be off to make sure that it was going to report and notify us, make sure that it wasn't just saying that it would. And we got the alerts that there was a price change, a price difference. And so we know for sure that the product does work. So it actually delivers what they say it will. And so it's a dream.
Well, and in particular, having worked, like we were talking about, with an oil change shop, and Chevron, is the ubiquitous vendor.
There's thousands.
Their accounting systems are so bad.
They're archaic. They are absolutely archaic. They manually enter in after they hand their delivery receipts are hand done, and if they have a third party, for instance, that person has to go and enter into their computer, and then it uploads to Chevron. So we have to make sure that they then took that information, that their delivery receipt was actually entered in properly, because it's manual entry. So we know for sure based off of that invoice that we ordered, because that's electronic, but the delivery receipt isn't. And so we know for sure if it's matching or not, because of the line item recognizing. It's
so
incredible.
The vendor's accounting is crap, and now here we are working as freelance management accounting professionals for small businesses, working with these vendors, and we have to catch their errors and do their accounting for them when they are gigantic multinational corporations who
Oh,
don't have
yeah.
their act together.
Billions. They're worth
What
billions.
Yeah.
And that's just amazing to me, especially with as a manufacturing company, for instance. So in the automotive industry, I mean, basic accounting, they know when they give you like their discounts, you know, a net 3, a net 10, whatever it may be. You would think that their system would push out that discount on their invoice. They don't. So we have asked Plate IQ, we are paying for a project. It's like I told you earlier, $125 an hour to work with their engineering team for customized projects, what we need specifically. So anything that I wanted from Bill.com, I have been able to pay. So email notifications to not just ACH vendors, but check vendors like Bill.com puts out. We are paying for a project right now that will send all of our check vendors who still don't want to transition to ACH notification on what is coming to them. So that eliminates a lot of the, you know, like, when are, you know, vendors contacting you, when are we getting our payment, you know, this is like that, you know, they know that it's on the way, and it avoids all of that communication. And then in addition to that, being able to have one of the projects, what was I saying, which project was I going on? Sorry, we were paying for a couple different projects that I'm just like so stoked about. What was the other one? I don't remember. There's just a couple.
Yeah, it's okay. I was really, it was kind of entertaining when you asked Zoe earlier, if you could basically pay them to innovate their products in certain ways. And she was like, clearly had never heard a question like that before. She's like, what? No. Like, but it's
and
like,
that's what's really nice.
No, really, like, we will pay you to have your R&D team do what you would want to do anyway to create new groundbreaking, you know, technology for your
the
product.
revenue that they'll receive off of being able to offer that product
Right.
to other people. Yeah, and I mean it's fairly inexpensive, $125, you know, and their engineer team, you know, it's really nice that we have the flexibility to do that. That's, you know, that's another big reason why we switched them as well.
Yeah.
You know, in consideration the consolidation.
Well, it may be that within Melio, Zoe's just not the right person to ask that question to.
Yeah.
You might have better luck checking in with David Leary directly, because he loves that cutting edge innovation kind of idea stuff.
Yeah. So circling back to what my initial project was with the manufacturers giving discounts, you know, you would assume that on their invoice, it would show a discount. Well, we're paying for a project because their statement comes with the discount, but their system is so old. And I actually had a conversation with PhilPack and Service Champ, you know, auto industry vendors, manufacturers, you know, parts dealers, you know, people who work in the accounting team, their billing team, they're so frustrated because we have to manually calculate the discount that we get as long as we pay it by their terms, and their statement comes with the discount whether we've entered the discount correctly or not. So that makes it really difficult when we're doing the statement reconciliation within Plate IQ, because if we miscalculate, it won't reconcile. It'll tell us that the amounts were off. You know, we entered in the invoice amount incorrectly. So we are paying for a project to have a custom, but we can customize by vendor. We can turn on this discount feature with the terms, you know, terms of 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, whatever day of the month that they allow it. So we can customize it by that. We can customize it, turning it on specific vendors. And so it'll calculate it for us. So it eliminates the manual calculation on our end. And when the statement's uploaded, it'll match. So again,
wow,
customize, you know, that's actually somebody who I wanted to bring on as one of these, but I was hoping we'd get a lot more involvement from people, because I really feel like people need to know about them. They are costly, but they're so customizable. And because they are so small right now, it's like, I'm so hungry to get these projects out, because I basically have replaced Bill.com, you know, don't like to name shame, but I'm saying, like, I'm sorry, they got to get with the program. Plate IQ is cutting edge and they are coming on top, but they are expensive.
Yeah.
That's the downfall.
So the expense is worth it for certain industries that have this particular pain point. And it sounds like, you know, and we're just thinking of a few, the auto and oil change and restaurants off the top of our head. I mean, I don't know if working with Cisco is as bad as working with Chevron, But that would be another situation where you have how many invoices from the same vendor every month, especially if you have multiple locations. Like if somebody is a restaurant franchise owner, oh my gosh, it's got to be a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, you're thinking of like hundreds of invoices. I mean, with parts, you know, you've ordered an air filter, you know, that's $12, you know, just that day because you were out of it. You ordered, you know, you have, you know, I mean, just one of the stores for the oil changes that are one of my clients. I mean, there's like 45 invoices just for one store per month for just one vendor. So
Yeah.
being able to line itemize and price check, and then being able to have all those invoices just, you know, consolidated, it's just, it's a pretty incredible program.
Would you reach out to Plate IQ and see if they want to do next month? We don't have anything planned for next month yet,
Oh,
right?
they definitely will.
Cool.
Yeah, they
Let's
definitely will.
email them, copy me, and we'll get it lined up and start spreading the word to anybody in an industry that is potentially of interest to this conversation, because I can think of some restaurant accountants right now off the top of my head that
Yeah.
need to hear this information.
Yeah. The line, I mean, price checking alone, it's huge.
Yeah.
And they, you know, they also have very customizable approvals, and things that you can customize people's permissions a lot more than you can with other programs. So yeah, there's just so much. Yeah, I definitely think it's a good idea to get them on.
Cool. Okay. Well, we will plan for that for June then. Yes. All right. Well, and with that, we are just a couple minutes past time. So thanks, Sade.
Right.
Thanks to anybody who's watching this recording and listening to us nerd out. And hopefully you'll be like, oh my gosh, I need to be there for this next time. And
I get excited and I'm using the program. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I can't say enough. It's like, I just like want everybody to know about it because it has made my life so much easier.
Yeah. Sounds so nerdy good. Okay. Great.
Yay.
Awesome. Great to see you. Thanks.
You too. Bye.